Two friends lounge in their pajamas. One reads from a book, her eyes wide with disbelief. She gestures wildly at the pages. Her friend listens casually, eating a snack. The reader's expression shifts from annoyance to a dawning, greedy realization. She clutches her drink, a perfect fantasy forming in her mind. The two girls erupt in laughter. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashes. The book on the floor glows with an intense light. Engulfing them, the girl awakens in a magnificent bedroom. Wearing a fine silk gown, she stares at her hands. Her reflection, pure shock on her face. She realizes she's been transported into the story. Her initial horror melts away, replaced by pure manic joy. She laughs. The system fallfish, yes. Leaping onto the enormous bed, she rolls around on the silk sheets. Celebrating her new lavish life, she lies back, breathing in the scent of wealth. Suddenly, a man and two women enter the room. They stare down at her with cold contempt. The girl freezes, sitting up abruptly. The older woman glares. The younger woman smirks. The man steps forward, his face a mask of disappointment. The girl's inner thoughts betray her admiration for the beautiful older woman, who suddenly looks confused, touching her own face, as if hearing a distant voice. The man throws a document onto the bed. A divorce agreement. The girl's face falls, pure panic in her eyes. She scrambles off the bed, grabbing the man's arm, pleading desperately. She holds up 3 fingers, making a solemn vow. The older woman stares, her confusion growing as she seems to hear the girl's unspoken, desperate thoughts. The younger woman points an accusing finger, her face twisted with jealousy. The girl glares back, her own thoughts revealing a shocking secret. The older woman's eyes widen. She turns to the younger woman in disbelief. The younger woman continues her tirade, her voice rising with emotion, but the older woman now understands. She heard the truth in the girl's mind. The man silences the younger woman with a harsh word. The girl's inner voice reveals one last devastating secret. The older woman looks from the man to the younger woman, her face a picture of absolute horror. The secret is too terrible to comprehend. The older woman leads the girl into another room. A handsome man lies unconscious in the bed, hooked to a heart monitor. The girl stares, her eyes widening in awe. This is her husband? A wave of pure adoration washes over her face. She clasps her hands to her cheeks, completely captivated by his beauty. The older woman watches her, a flicker of confusion and disgust on her face. As if she can hear the girl's lustful thoughts, the girl reaches a hand out, wanting to touch him. The older woman speaks, her face serious. The girl turns, smiling sweetly. But her inner thoughts run wild. The older woman flinches, her face contorting in revulsion. She looks physically ill. The girl coughs, trying to maintain her innocent facade. Suddenly, the heart monitor beeps wildly. The man's fingers twitch beneath the covers. The older woman gasps, her eyes fixed on his hand, hope and disbelief warring on her face. The older woman stands resolute, her mind racing with the girl's revelations. The man and the younger woman watch her, confused by her sudden silence. The girl stands quietly, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. The older woman's inner turmoil gives way to cold fury. She stares at her husband, a storm brewing in her eyes. He asks her what's wrong. She snaps, striking him hard across the face. He recoils in shock, clutching his cheek. The girl and the younger woman stare, completely stunned. The older woman laughs, a bitter, mocking sound. She takes the divorce papers from the girl's hand, tearing them into pieces. She throws the confetti of paper into the air. The man looks on, utterly bewildered. The older woman glares at him, then turns to the girl, her expression softening. She takes the girl's hands, her voice firm but kind. The girl looks up, her eyes filled with gratitude. The older woman turns to the younger woman, her voice now dripping with ice. She orders her to give up her room. The younger woman's face contorts with rage and disbelief. She screams in protest. The older woman cuts her off, her authority absolute. She then leads the girl away. The younger woman watches them go, her eyes burning with a murderous hatred. The older woman stares at a woman in a gold dress, a whirlwind of shock and fury in her eyes. The girl's inner voice reveals the woman's true identity, the mistress, and the cause of her husband's accident. The mistress feigns concern, but the girl's thoughts expose her lies. The older woman's face hardens, a silent, deadly understanding passing between her and the girl. The mistress continues her act, her voice dripping with false sympathy. The older woman finally snaps, striking the mistress hard across the face. A doctor rushes into the room. He checks on the unconscious man, listening to his chest with a stethoscope, checking his pupils. The older woman watches, her face a mask of anxious hope. The girl stands beside her, a mixture of excitement and apprehension in her eyes. The doctor turns to them, a smile on his face. He delivers the good news. The older woman bursts into tears of joy. The girl beams, her mind racing with the possibilities. The doctor asks if the man experienced any recent trauma. The older woman freezes, a sudden realization dawning on her face. She glances at the girl, a knowing look in her eyes. She takes the girl's hands, her voice filled with a newfound warmth and gratitude. She encourages the girl to spend more time with him, to talk to him, to touch him. The girl agrees enthusiastically. The doctor leaves, and the mistress saunters back into the room, a smug look on her face. The older woman and the girl turn to face her, their expressions hardening into a united front of cold fury. The older woman stands defiant, holding a vase like a weapon. The mistress points a trembling finger, her voice laced with fear. The man scrambles to his feet, trying to de-escalate the situation. But the older woman is beyond reason, her eyes burning with a righteous fury. She lunges forward. The older woman raises the vase, her face a mask of pure rage. But before she can bring it down, an elderly woman with a cane enters the room, her voice sharp and commanding. Everyone freezes. The girl's inner voice reveals the newcomer's identity, the matriarch, and the true villain of the story. The mistress rushes to the matriarch's side, sobbing and pointing at the older woman. The man joins in, painting his wife as a madwoman. The older woman stands her ground, her eyes never leaving the matriarch, a silent challenge passing between them. The matriarch listens to the accusations, her face unreadable. Then, with a sudden, swift movement, she strikes the mistress with her cane. The mistress cries out in pain and surprise. The matriarch then turns on the man, her eyes blazing with a cold, terrifying anger. The girl stands by the unconscious man's bedside, the matriarch beside her, a strange knowing look on her face. The girl suddenly realizes the truth. The matriarch is her best friend, also transported into the story. They embrace, laughing and crying with relief. The matriarch, now revealed as the friend, examines the unconscious man, a look of pure lust on her face. She collapses in a fit of dramatic despair, bemoaning her new elderly body. The girl comforts her, and the friend's mood shifts again. She embraces her new power, vowing to protect the girl and enjoy her newfound wealth and status. They dance around the room, celebrating their incredible luck, completely oblivious to the mistress watching from the stairs, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. She clenches her fists, a dark and terrible plan forming in her mind. The matriarch stands before the man and the mistress, her face a mask of cold fury. She berates them, her voice dripping with contempt. The mistress tries to plead her case, but the matriarch cuts her off, pushing her to the ground. She then turns on the man, her voice rising with rage. She tells them both to get out. The man and the mistress scramble to their feet, fleeing the room in terror. The matriarch watches them go, a look of disgust on her face. The girl and the older woman stare, completely bewildered by this sudden turn of events. The matriarch dismisses the older woman, who leaves without a word. The matriarch then turns to the girl, her expression softening. She closes the door, and then, in a move that shocks the girl to her core, she rips off her glasses and cane, a playful grin spreading across her face. She winks, and the girl realizes the impossible. The two friends embrace, laughing and crying with joy and disbelief. They dance around the room, celebrating their reunion when the matriarch suddenly stops, a look of pure, unadulterated lust on her face as she stares at the unconscious man. The girl pulls her back, reminding her that he's her grandson. The matriarch collapses in a fit of dramatic despair, bemoaning her new elderly body. The girl comforts her. The older woman rushes into the room, followed closely by the girl and the matriarch. She lunges forward, striking the mistress and sending the syringe flying. The girl rushes to the man's side, her voice filled with a desperate plea. The older woman collapses in tears, her grief raw and overwhelming. The matriarch joins in the wailing, her performance even more dramatic than the older woman's. The girl tries to comfort them, pointing to the heart monitor, but they are lost in their sorrow. The mistress sees her chance to escape, but the older woman spots her, her eyes blazing with a renewed fury. She attacks the mistress, her rage uncontrollable. The man rushes in, pulling the older woman off the mistress. The mistress plays the victim again, crying to the man and accusing the older woman of attacking her. The man turns on his wife, his voice filled with anger and disbelief. The older woman is stunned into silence. The matriarch steps forward, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She suggests they test the contents of the syringe. The mistress's face pales, her eyes wide with terror. The mistress sneaks into the unconscious man's room, a vial of poison in her hand. She fills the syringe, her face a mask of cold, calculating evil. She approaches the bed, her voice a venomous whisper. She reveals that she was the one who caused his accident. She leans over him, the needle poised to strike, but suddenly, the girl wakes up with a gasp. She had a nightmare, a vision of the mistress murdering her husband. She sees the mistress leaning over her husband, just as she did in her dream. The mistress confesses to poisoning him, her voice filled with a cruel, triumphant glee. She injects the poison into his IV. But as she does, the girl wakes up again, screaming in terror. She runs downstairs, her voice choked with sobs. She tells the older woman and the matriarch that her husband is dead. They rush to the room, but it's too late. The mistress tries to slip away unnoticed, but the older woman spots her. She lunges at the mistress, her hands outstretched like claws. The man rushes in, pulling the older woman back. The mistress plays the victim, her voice trembling with false fear. The man turns on his wife, his voice filled with anger and disgust. The older woman holds up a capsule, her eyes blazing with triumphs. The man scoffs, dismissing it as a harmless supplement. He accuses them of slander, his voice filled with a self-righteous anger. The older woman fires back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The man defends the mistress, his words a dagger in the older woman's heart. The matriarch watches, a storm brewing in her eyes. She collapses in a fit of dramatic despair, wailing about her ungrateful son. The mistress tries to comfort the man, but the girl steps forward. Her voice cold and clear, she suggests they test the capsule. The mistress's face pales, her eyes wide with terror. The doctor analyzes the sample, his face a mask of concentration. He returns to the family, a test tube in his hand. He announces that the liquid is not poison, but a nerve stimulant. The man erupts in anger, accusing them of slander. The girl and the older woman exchange a look of disbelief. The mistress plays the victim, her voice trembling with false sincerity. The man comforts her. His words, a dagger in the older woman's heart. The girl's mind races. She realizes that the stimulant is only half of the poison. It needs a catalyst. The older woman understands, her eyes blazing with a newfound determination. She orders the girl and the matriarch to search the mistress. The man tries to intervene, but the women are relentless. They overpower him. The girl reaches into the mistress's pocket and pulls out a small white pill. The older woman holds it up in triumph. The mistress stares, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror.